All right, here we are.
Yeah.
You got me this place, actually, where we're sitting.
I did.
Wasn't that fun?
I helped. I played a small part.
Well, the funny part is when we first talked to you, like, are you really going to get us the money? Because we went through hell and back again in COVID, my husband and I. And you're like, Amy, I've never, like, pre-approved someone and not gotten it done. I think that's what were your exact words? I can't remember.
I haven't lost a loan in over 20 years, and you're talking a few thousand loans, so I promise I'm not going to start with yours.
And I'm like, okay, so we're not going to go through that again.
We're not.
Because that was not fun. But no, thank you for being a part of that. So that was super cool. So
super special, and to see this all come together. And I didn't even know that was part of the vision initially.
Oh, so. Yeah. When my husband saw this on the pictures of the house, he's like, oh, Amy's going to have this giant media room as her office, and then she can have the whole, like, landing for her podcast area, and then I'll have my area, and then the kids will have their area.
I was going to say, this isn't the kids' area. This is mom's area.
Well, temporarily off screen, y'all, there is some stuff, but we're getting enclosed a porch downstairs with air conditioning and everything, and
awesome.
there's stuff going down there.
Beautiful.
So we're adding a couple 100 square feet to the house, so
Love
it's
it.
all permitted and everything, so I'm super excited.
Got it. So how long will that take?
They came out again, like the doors are ordered, so just maybe a couple more weeks. We started that process about a month ago. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it's gonna be like an enclosed porch with like glass doors and everything, and add a couple 100 square feet to the house, and I can see them right from the kitchen, and all their stuff's down there and not in my area. I think I'm taking like half the house right now.
No tripping on anything, no stubbing toes, no twisted ankles.
Yeah. So as we got to know each other and everything, I was like, oh, we're like the same vibe. We're like so into mindset and professional and personal, like development. And obviously you're in business for yourself and you own your mortgage company and all that. Do you want to talk about what you do and how you got there and all those kinds of things?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've got a residential mortgage company, so we don't specialize in commercial. We pass the baton there. I think it's hard to serve two masters, for example, but this is my professional family. You'll hear me also say that I'm a corporate athlete. So now this is my sport. I'm no longer competing athletically. So I compete professionally at this point and have been professionally coached for 23 years now.
Wow.
And so that just keeps you focused on getting better, not necessarily getting bigger.
Yeah.
And really just, I think it insulates you a little bit too.
It's interesting. I've had a lot of conversations with friends lately about the whole concept of enough and being like a smaller enterprise, but still having like major impact. Is that something that you're kind of subscribing to, or what is your model for your company?
Yeah, it's funny. So impact is my word for 2025.
That's right.
Or if I'm impactful enough, then everything else will take care of itself. And so now it is truly about other people. I'll say that I'm working harder on myself right now, and it's really to see if I can outpace, but really so that I can contribute and make that bigger difference in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a why and you have like impact, like everything else like falls into place. It's magical.
That's actually been an epiphany for me over the last, I'd say, 3.5 months, is really getting clear on the why. I thought I was clear on the why, and I listened to a podcast like I do so often. And
here you are on one, by the way.
And one of the gentlemen who was actually being interviewed said, why do you think loan officers don't hit their goals? And this could be applicable to any professional or just anybody in life. And the guy he didn't know where the question was going, and he said, well, maybe it's because they lack a plan, they lack accountability, maybe they don't have leadership, and maybe they're not willing to change their habits, which all could be the right answer. And he said, no, they just don't give a shit. Let that sit for a second, but they don't have a why that's emotionally connected to their goals and dreams, and that's why they're not willing to do the work so often, and then they succumb to their emotions versus standards.
Well, I've heard, I'm in a lot of Twitter spaces at night. A lot of us commercial real estate folks, that's where we congregate at night.
Yep. Some
of us with an IPA, some of us glass, some of us just chilling, right? After, kids are down or whatever. But it's interesting as you could always like suss out and figure out like the agents that are like just really wanting things to close for their own self-preservation versus it necessarily meeting the actual goals of the client. Like you have to understand what is the goals of the clients, why are they going there. I think you even asked us like, why are you moving? Like in the first call.
Yeah, you want to ask, I mean, you want to truly identify what that motivation
Right.
is. So it's what's important or what's the significance behind the move for the family right now. But for me, and the way this came about is I was preparing for a mastermind that we facilitate with loan officers outside of our company that we've been doing for about a year and a half. And they're coming to get that coaching and that sales leadership, for example. And when I heard that, I'm like, I've got my why. But then as I reflected on it quickly, I was like, that is a really half-assed why. And I've been saying it for a few years, and it was to make a greater difference in the lives of those that I serve. And for some, that could be their why. But then as I really looked at it and reflected, and this hit me in about 30 minutes, I was like, it's family, and it's professional family. And so for me, from a family standpoint, you know this, my father passed away 10 and a half months ago. And my father was a minority equity position in our company, or a partner in our company. And so now my mom got his equity position in our company. My mom, up until this point, has never had any involvement in personal or business finances ever. And now I'm having to have those conversations, and they're not the conversations right at this very moment to where I'm making the deposits into the nest egg that was left behind. So from a why standpoint, that is something that's very important to me, is to protect the nest egg and to make deposits into that.
Right.
And then you think about, obviously, you have 2 children. We've got 4 children and a granddaughter. And at that time, our 17-year-old, who just turned 18, was about to have her 10th surgery at Nemours. And so you think about that, and she aspires to be a pediatric IR surgeon. That is the exact surgeon that operates on her for most of her life and will continue to operate on her. And now we're going through the college routine, and she's applying to some of the best universities in the entire country. And as we're going through that, it's, does she have a job? No. Will she have a job? No. Will she take on student debt? No. Will she take it on in medical school? No. And so that would be another one of the whys. And just from a professional family, you know that we've gone through a tougher season over the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And I have loan officers that are struggling and fighting. And one of the things has been my motto is keep effing digging. Like, keep effing digging. Like, I can see things that they can't see because we've gone through, a few cycles before.
Right.
And so I've got to help
22
them.
22 years?
Coming up on 24.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I love it. And I'm more in love with it today than even when I got my start and really didn't know anything. And not many people can say that.
Yeah.
But those are really clear whys. And so when you look at that and things get tough, if I've got that clearly in sight, can I go the extra mile? Can I make the extra call? Can I face the extra rejection? And the answer is 100% yes.
Well, you don't say no to the prospect.
Right.
Like, if you're already afraid that they're going to say no and you don't even call them, my friend Beth Azor says it all the time, like, you haven't even given yourself a chance.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that's so key. I mean, how are you handling some of the loan officers that haven't been through a 2007, 8, 9 and haven't been through the, I think probably the other economic cycle we had trouble with in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And that was, you started during a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
One, I'm super tactical.
Okay.
I obviously protect my mindset. I work on it every day.
You have to protect your mind. Yes, yes.
We have a really great community of professional family, for example, and I reflect on that. And you're not always going to be operating at the highest level, and sometimes you're not going to feel it, and sometimes people are going to, notice that, and you can share it. But every single day is an opportunity for us to reset, and that's why I talk about, having a morning routine that is super, super consistent and structured. And then obviously the nighttime routine a lot of times feeds into that morning routine.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you don't have any discipline at night and you just willy-nilly, stay out with friends super late, then you're going to be too tired, you're going to be snoozing, you're not going to have the morning routine. And then before you know it, like, the whole day's gotten away from. What does your morning routine look like?
Yeah, actually? So I typically am waking up between 5 and 5:30 in the morning. I know some people wake up a little bit earlier than that, but that's just my sweet spot, for example. So I typically
have some 4 a.m. friends.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, and I follow Robin Sharma, and Robin Sharma wrote the 5 a.m. Club, for example, amongst several other great books. But typically I'm reading John Maxwell's leadership devotional every single day.
Oh, there's a leadership devotional.
There is. Sometimes I'll take pictures of it and then share it on stories with Facebook or IG, for example. I typically read one of the Proverbs of the day, but I am a pretty voracious reader, and so I'm typically reading 2 to 4 books sometimes at a time, and just whatever other book that I'm reading, and then from there it goes into my journal. And so another book that I'm reading right now is Inner Excellence, that was the book that A.J. Brown was reading on the sidelines in between plays.
What is it called again?
Inner Excellence.
Inner Excellence. Okay,
Yeah.
I have not heard of that. So
I try and do the
notes person will put all these links in the post production part of it. So,
but I'm a big reader. I will buy 5 to 20 books at a time because I like to pass those books out and share them with other people.
The same ones?
Share them with other people too.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was really, one of my favorite books I read last year was like 10X is Easier Than 2X, Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Yes.
Which actually lives in our area.
Great book. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
I'd love to get him on my podcast. Please said he got vibes. I'm still working on it. But I've read a lot of his books, but he was nice enough to send me like a couple boxes of his books, and then I was able to kind of like share them, and so that was super cool.
Phenomenal book.
Huh?
Phenomenal book.
Yeah.
And I think it's not How, It's Who is another one of their books.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Who, Not How. Who, Not How. Yeah.
And then the other one I just read last year, there was another one by him, so good. And I can't remember what it is. I'd have to look
The
it
Gap
up.
in the Gain?
Gap in the Gain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. So, yeah. You can see off screen in my office all my books, so that I have color coordinated.
I need a bigger space, and that will be someday what I gift the children and grandchildren.
Oh yeah.
Is the library.
Yeah. All the books. Yeah, I love to read. So I did not read as much last year because I was writing a book.
Yeah.
So that took a little bit longer. So yeah.
Almost done?
It's done. It's
done?
coming out in March.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So I'm getting all ready for that and having cheerleaders and people do reviews, all the things. But I've never done this before, but it's kind of exciting.
It is.
How
How are you going to put all the media behind it and capture it and book tour if that is something? So
I've given it some thought, and so because I too have like my why, which is like primarily like my family is so important to me today. My mother-in-law is actually moving in.
Oh wow!
4-minute walk away.
Yes.
So she's going to be in Heathrow. And I'm going to get her all integrated to the ladies. She was widowed about a year and a half ago. And, like her identity for so long was being like an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And then for 8 years, she cared for her husband having like stage 4 cancer. And then he passed away in 2023. And, she kind of like lost her identity. She didn't have her husband that she was married to for like 60 years. And then she didn't have her business. And she was kind of like, and then she realized, she's like, I got the grandkids. Like, why wait to go move close to them until there's like an emergency? I need to live my life.
Yep.
And so I think she actually read one of those books. Like, there's a book about like you can't take your stuff with you and to just live your life. Do you know what book that is? You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of it. Yes.
But she decided at that point, if the opportunity presented itself, that she would. And so we were like, okay, we live really close to this big master planned community, and there's got to be a house for her. And I fell down the stairs here, like December 30th. And while I was trying to keep my mind off of it, I was like, I'm going to look again for a house for her. And a house that was perfect had just come on the market 2 days before.
Oh, wow.
So, and then we went and saw it. And then here she closed on it January 29th.
Got it.
So how cool is that?
It's amazing.
So,
wow.
But like, I think the whole point of that is like, I think like you figure out your why. Oh, so I'm going to segment the book kind of thing. It's like, I'm going to focus first on just kind of getting the words out there to friends, family, close contacts, get it to be an Amazon bestseller, all those different things. And then I'm planning on to more so go on a press junket, like more so in like April, May, June. Like, because it doesn't have to happen right when the book launches because the book's launching.
Right.
And again, my book's all about being like, you don't have to be perfect. You just do the best you can do. And so I determined with my capacity with 2 kids, the brokerage, the podcast, and family, and all the things, I'm like, let's break it up. And then I can hopefully, maybe I can land some cool media appearances. And if not, my big why with the book is to help, impact the lives, especially of women who feel this whole need to subscribe to this whole perfectionism, this Pinterest perfect thing that's going on. I mean, everything has to be perfect. And like, my kids have Valentine's Day this week, and it's like, you got to make this perfect shoebox. And I'm like, well, it doesn't look like the kid made the shoebox.
Yeah.
It means you delegated homework to the parents to make this beautiful shoebox to them. And I was like, you know what? I'm not making my kids a beautiful shoebox. I'm going to cover it in white paper, and they can decorate their shoebox, and it looks like a hot mess. But that's what they're taking, because otherwise they're not getting like the experience of it, and everything's all this perfectly crafted thing. So I feel like I'm kind of beating to my own drum, but in fact I think it's just getting back to where things were before. Like if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, I don't think there was many participation trophies and all this extra stuff that kind of, all the stuff I feel gets in the way of like just connecting with the kids and having fun with the kids. I don't know. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's more participation. I was going to say, I think there's more participation trophies today. Absolutely. And shoot, I even remember flashcard competitions for multiplication and addition in school, and that was competition.
Oh,
right?
yeah, and my teacher would be like, you're out, you're out, you're out. Okay, you're the last one standing. And everybody was fine with it. We just got used to it.
Yeah. So, but what I was going to say, too, is one of my best friends wrote the book One Jordan. So he's local, and I would love to make that introduction for you because he's gone through that experience over the last 2 years and has grown his influence significantly. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, love to learn. It's been how I found the person that helped me kind of write the book and everything and polished it came from my business broker. So it's always so amazing. You never know what different connections are going to come.
Yeah,
so.
we talk about your one call, your one person, your one connection, one relationship away from changing your life and changing your business a lot of times.
Yeah.
But not if you don't make the call or show up.
Well, yeah. I mean, like one of my clients now just literally came from doing like a keynote, and it's a big, corporate client, which is great, and other relationships. And I'm just doing what I love. So, so having these kinds of conversations. So we talked a little bit about your why and those types of things. That you talked about your morning routine. What does your evening look like?
Right now, it's no wine or less wine. So during the week, so I'm not perfect. So
I love wine.
I cheated a little bit last night, just saying. So, and we just finished a series called Drops of God, which is amazing on Apple TV, and it's got a wine influence behind that. But really, it's trying to get 6.5 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
Which I did not get that last night, for example. But the nighttime routine is protecting the morning routine. And sometimes, even if I'm laying in bed, like I feel like we're supposed to bookend our days. Morning routine and then bookend it with the nighttime routine. But I will literally get out of bed sometimes if I haven't written in my journal, and I'll get out and finish in my journal what were the lessons, what are the takeaways and the gratitude, and what am I going to improve upon tomorrow. And then guess what? I go back and I have a better night's sleep, and I'm ending my day in gratitude. And then the communication with Gwen, my wife. Yeah. That's so important.
Oh, yeah. We have family meetings even with the kids, like trying to talk about like what do you have planned for the day? What are we going to try to accomplish today? And even though they're little, and we've come up with like the Calandrino family values, and like what are our family values, and if even me and my husband, are we doing things incongruent to the values. Like one of them is we're winners, not whiners.
Love it.
Right.
Love it.
So, but what I was thinking was actually I do have a morning and an evening routine, and actually I put it on my website, amycalandrino.com, and people can kind of like download it. But I think, I don't think it's whether you wake up at like 5 or 6 or 4. I think it's just framing your day in a good way, like in bookending it, like you said. So,
I think it's consistent structure to how you lead your life, but that starts with your morning a lot of times. And if I win the morning, well, that's going to feed over into my day. And then, if I think the other thing is counting our small wins a lot of times, and that's where bookending the end of the day is so important, because a lot of times if we didn't have that big win, for example, and we're not recording the small one, we get to the end of the week and we feel like a failure. Right. And I think we've all been there. But if I count all these little micro wins, even if I didn't get the big one, maybe those micro wins are what feed the big win 2 months down the road. And so if I'm capturing that, I still feel like I made progress.
Yeah, I think you have to look at, and also give yourself credit from where you came from. Like, one of the sayings my husband always says, because I do sometimes, like, I have to focus, like, relentlessly, like, on mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes if I all of a sudden zig over here, then I'm like, oh my gosh, my goal is all the way over here. But then life's kind of like a sailboat where as long as you're eventually going that direction, you don't worry about it quite as much.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting though, you mentioned wine, and I don't want to like harp on it like too much, but like I haven't drank wine since the 6th. And that was like when we went to Quebec to go skiing.
Yeah.
I went the whole weekend. I just tried these Little Saint things. Have you tried those yet? They're the ones with the adaptive like mushrooms in them and CBD.
Okay.
And I drink one of those or 2 of those and I'm like out. Like it like calms me down. I don't like want to have any wine. And so I'm going to try to make it, I don't have a craving for it today. Like I sometimes get like a craving around like 5 o'clock.
Yep.
But we'll see. I've tried that. My best friend recommended it. She lost 15 pounds last year.
Wow.
And she like loved to have like a glass of wine to like relax at night and while cooking, especially while cooking. It's fun to put music on and cook and all the things. And so I was like, oh, these are expensive, but I've been doing the Little Saints and like.
I think I made pasta last night, and that's maybe why I broke out the red.
Oh yes. You can't resist. So you've been working professionally with the coach. Has it been like the same coach or different coaches?
No, different coaches. So initially had a flawed business model. We just were 2 young guys. My dad handled the administration and the operations side of the business and allowed my cousin and business partner, BJ, and I to go sell. But we were just 2 young guys that were hungry to learn and do the right thing and work our tails off, but really had no coaching, no scripting, no structure. And I answered a fax back in 2003 and then signed up for coaching, the first coaching event that I could, and that was called By Referral Only. And it put some structure and some systems and some languaging in place that is still foundational to this day. And a lot of the coaches, even in the real estate and lending space, got their start with Joe Stump and By Referral Only, but then went through some leadership coaching. Then spent 9.5 years with a company called The Core that coaches They coach high producing realtors and loan officers, for example. I thought I would be a lifer, but they changed me professionally, made me a better man, made me a better leader, and I owe so much to The Core and to coaching.
Yeah, I think no matter what field you were in, like it's always helpful to have a coach. I have a personal branding coach at the moment, and working on a lot of that. If you see like new colors on the podcast and new like things that kind of bring out my personality, it really helps you to have a lot more accountability.
Yeah, I think you can have coaches in all areas of your life. And so that could be a spiritual coach. That could be a marriage coach, for example. That can be a personal trainer. I did a short little quick story this morning because I didn't get enough sleep last night. And I wanted to hit the snooze button, or I wanted to text my personal trainer and let him know that I was calling it in today, and I didn't. And when I got there, I started filming, and he's like, I was hoping you would text me this morning, because he was tired as well. And so it's the accountability of each other, and that's where I think it's so important. It doesn't have to be a personal trainer or somebody that you pay, but at least have somebody that you're accountable to in addition to yourself.
Yeah, I have multiple, I have little communities, little villages of different people I know, whether it's at church or whether it's through golf or like otherwise. And sometimes I'll tell them like what's going on in my life. And then they can say, oh, did you do that? Did you do that thing that you talked about? Or, even I've talked about things on the podcast and people like, you talked about that you were going to do this. What happened with that? And so I think it's kind of cool.
Well, and that's something too. And so I've actually taken the why to be tactical. Like getting clear on your why can be tactical as it relates to your business, but helping others get clear on their why. And so showing up and showing that you truly care, and then finding out a habit that they're looking to improve either personally or professionally, for example. So like you said, if I'm standing up there and saying that I'm not going to drink from Sunday until Friday, for example, somebody can check in with me at the end of the week and say, hey, how did you do? Did you win or did you lose? And if you lost, what got in the way? Right? And if your why is so clear, then why are you sabotaging what you know is in your best interest to get you closer to your goal?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, my best friend, like, she knows, and she's like, well, you order the Little Saints, because I tried to do like I needed a substitute. They often say if someone's trying to quit smoking or anything like that, you need to like substitute it with a like a better habit, makes it a lot easier. And she's like, Amy, once you have the Little Saints, it'll be just like so much easier. You can have yourself one of those. It's 5 grams of 5 calories. Yeah.
Okay.
And like these little mushrooms, and they have a Paloma flavor, a Negroni flavor. Hopefully they'll eventually sponsor my podcast, y'all.
Yeah.
But
soon.
But it's funny. It's like, I was like, wow, like last night again, I'm like, I have no craving. Like this is just like, it just hit the fix. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm like, gonna hold out, because I know Valentine's Day, I definitely want a martini. Like you can't go to a steak restaurant and not, I mean, you could.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I also think one of the things I've really focused on is like, if you're at least getting like 80-90% there, like on what you're focusing on, to give yourself grace. Like it doesn't have to be perfect.
100%.
Yeah.
And we need to help other people give grace to themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people are also chasing that perfectionism. And so that's where we as leaders and friends and accountability partners can help others give themselves a little bit more grace. And like I said, every day is an opportunity to reset. And that's the beautiful thing. And even sometimes I'll talk with my referral partners or even my staff. And if they're having a bad day, for example, pack it in. Like close up shop early, go do something for yourself, go home to the family early, and have a great nighttime routine and wake up early and reset.
You know, it's funny you said that. I had a really rough afternoon yesterday. I had a first in my career, a reputable broker. We cleared the showing like 3 times. I had a chairman of the board and a CEO of a company, a major company, drive up to see this property, and we said, hey, such and such Bob, let's just call him Bob. We said, Bob, we have this user who wants to use it for this use, that wants to see the property on X date. Yes, I will be there. And then I reconfirmed it. We got a floor plan with them, all this kinds of stuff. Chairman of the board, CEO shows up to the parking lot. This is their number 1 property they want to see. I added a couple other ones, but they're not really interested in it. Guy's not there. I texted him, hey, Bob, looking forward to seeing you soon. And then it finally was a few minutes to the showing. I called him and he's like, well, I'm in the office and no, that use isn't allowed there, and we have it under contract. And I'm like,
well,
even though it wasn't my fault, like it just like, like got me. And so the rest of the showings, like we had to, we obviously didn't see that. So then I had to move the other ones up, and it was just kind of like the rest of the day was kind of like busy work, and like I was trying to make up for it, but there was not really anything I could do at that point, and I knew it was not my fault. So I had some time between. I always go to Bible study on Tuesday night, like unless I'm out of the country or whatever, and but I had some time in between that. So I went to the Winter Park YMCA before I went to church, and at first I was just going to get on my emails and just knock out someone. I'm like, no, just get on the elliptical. Get on the elliptical. Well, it's my office away from my office. I've gotten used to taking my kids there because I get 2 hours of childcare. I don't need to do a 2-hour workout, but that's like my landing spot.
Yeah.
Is I use little YMCAs as areas to get changed. So any moms listening, it's a great tool and a great like way to, if you're already somewhere and they don't have to go to a coffee shop and you run into people you know.
Yep. So, you can listen to a podcast. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
I just got on the elliptical. I put on some Kendrick Lamar, which I know some people don't like, but I do. And so I was just like, right, and I just like worked it out. And then after that, I was like, okay, all right, knock out some stuff. And I had some great calls after that. And then went to church, and actually I was serving in the nursery last night and watching all the little kids. Yeah. And you know what? If I hadn't flushed that energy out too, it's they always have one person and then maybe like a mom helping in the nursery. Okay. They said the kids are the calmest they've ever been, and I was like, I guess I worked out all my energy. My energy was good going in because I flushed it out.
It's rare for you to leave the gym or a workout feeling worse than you went in. So, just saying.
Yeah, just saying. But yeah, I was really glad I made that decision, and and just like worked it out, and I felt like way better. But the CFO of the company today just said, I heard it was kind of disastrous yesterday. Yeah. And I'm like, yes. But, I guess I'll work out again today.
That just means the true best property is right around the corner.
I do agree with that. I found a really cool property for lease, but I know they'd rather buy, but we'll figure it out. Or I kind of wish they would have purchased the property that I told them was perfect last year, and I got it. I won a bidding war and got it. So we'll see.
Well, I was having lunch earlier with one of my loan officers, and she said, "Who are you doing the podcast with?" And I mentioned your name, and she's like, "That is one of the top 2 names that I always hear when a commercial, real estate professional is mentioned in our marketplace." So I wasn't expecting that, and I didn't know that she was going to say that, which was super cool to hear that. So.
Yeah, once you tell people like, "Hey, I know Amy Kellendrine," I'm like, "Oh, I just try to do the right thing."
Yes.
Like I do not do what Bob did, and especially. So what was the crazy thing about what Bob did? And I will just say, no, because my podcast is a conversation, so I might as well tell you.
Yes, it is.
He had no accountability. He said, well, one of the people in your office was a project manager emailing me. And so I thought they were with some construction company. And I'm like, yeah, but I emailed you too. What does an SIOR and a CCIM mean? Right. And we said client. And so he just kind of was trying to make it out like he had no accountability for it. If I had done that, I would have been like, I am so sorry. I was asleep at the wheel, totally messed up. What can I do? What is it that you guys need? Do I have any other listings? Let me collaborate. I would have just felt like awful. But the fact of the matter was, he was just like, well, you have like a job title that could be in a construction company. I'm like, okay.
Got it.
All right, moving on. So, yeah. But I mean, how would you handle something if you made a blunder like that?
I mean, you have to own it.
Yeah.
I would offer to potentially even apologize to your clients to where that takes some of the pressure off of you.
That is a very good point. Yeah. I mean...
Because, that could be a reflection on you, even though it really truly isn't, to where your clients are questioning you.
Well, yeah, I kind of felt at that point I had to show my clients on the phone the communications. Yeah. But, yeah, that would be good, too. I mean, I think... I don't often, I try to be very careful, but we know nobody's perfect. Yep. So, but yeah, that's a great point too. Because then you're helping out the other professional and building goodwill with them.
Absolutely.
So, what other than you talked about impact as your goal, your word for the year? Like, do you have that written somewhere or everywhere?
Yeah, and that's and so I spoke out in Scottsdale at the beginning of January, and I always want to be tactical. Like, yes, I want to be mindset driven, for example, but I also want to be tactical. And so I created a couple tools to leave with the audience. But then we think about my loan officers, for example. So I created a tool and I renamed it Heart and Hustle. And just whoever you're talking to, and I've got a bunch of tabs down there. So it has the word for 2025. It's got your why for 2025, and I've just got 3 areas for that. Just to get super clear on this, what is an income goal? What's a volume goal for those that are in that space? What would be the number one business goal, the number one personal goal? And then what's a habit that you're focused on improving this quarter? And I go quarter by quarter. And so you think about from a leadership standpoint, from a referral partner standpoint, and obviously we've got to walk our talk first. So having it clear on yourself. Yeah. But then if I've got that, and that's just where I said this was almost like an epiphany, and it will change the way I lead myself, but really more importantly, I think of how I lead others to, again, lead by their emotionally connected why.
I was given that advice by one of my coaches, Rod Santamassimo, with the Massimo Group. He's like probably the number one commercial real estate coaching enterprise. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you really need to understand your team and what is their why? Where are they trying to go? How are you helping to get them there? And that is so helpful. So do you personally then meet with each of your team members? Yeah. So you're the... Yeah, and we were talking about that today, and it's even like referral partners. So I shared this a few weeks ago that I had 4 conversations in one day. You meet with referral partners too?
Yes,
oh, wow.
Yeah, but I had 4 conversations in one day, and those 4 conversations totaled just over 2 hours. around each of those questions that I just went through. So you think about the impact, and
each meeting was 2 hours or total?
no, I'm saying just those conversations, and those are phone conversations totaled over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would think that that is such a long time, but you think about how deep you can go in there and how much you can show that you care and pull things out that you just really wouldn't get in most conversations. That's totally different. That is a totally different relationship, or it takes that relationship to a totally different place.
Well, and if anything, too, by having more deep conversations of understanding like where someone's going to go, you can figure out if they're congruent for your organization still or coming in. Like I had someone who was wanting to join my organization. I had a call with them last night, and they were like, "Oh, I want to do, investment sales and this, and he's explaining to me, and I'm like, yeah, it's not really like our mission. Like we're more here, and this is what we do. But here's a broker who would be great, and like passing him along. But I think you're able to figure out if this person continues to like subscribe to the level of excellence that you guys have, or if another opportunity is better for them.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I did is I wrote handwritten note cards to the spouse or significant other for pretty much everybody that I'm doing that to, whether it's a referral partner, whether it's a client, whether it's...
Really?
That feels really good to receive that on the other end. And so like one of my referral partners said that the most important thing was a quarterly getaway with her and her husband, just the two of them. And so I wrote the handwritten card to him. And so to think about that as a man, like me receiving that, saying my wife's number one personal goal was to have a quarterly romantic getaway with just the two of us, that would make me feel amazing as a man. And so that's where I just think that that's important.
And that gives them more accountability to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
That's so cool. I love it. How many people do you have in your organization right now?
90.
90. Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
We had a few more, and that's something that, through this downturn, you think about professional family, it's something that we've been very proud of, is not having the layoffs that the rest of the industry has, and that's come, lost to us, but it's also an investment, and I've got a loyalty brand, and we've got excess capacity right now, and I'm committed to grow into that capacity and to obviously protect the professional family.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, did you find any of the goals of the people that are on your team really especially like interesting? Do you have anything that you could share that was?
Yeah, some of them are bringing spouses home, like to where the spouse has the choice to work or not to work. And we've got one that's driving to Disney, for example, and that's a heavy commute each way, and that takes away from either the family or the marriage sometimes. And so now we got to craft the plan and re-engineer, what do we have to do to replace the income and potentially the increased health insurance benefits versus Disney as a small business owner, for example. And then we can re-engineer and go back into that. And then what does it take to get there?
Wow.
And then I wrote his wife a handwritten note to let her know, which she already did, but it feels better coming from me, that his number one business and personal goal, both the same, were to bring her home, or at least give her the option to come home.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then you could just work backwards from that. A lot of people ask me where a lot of my success came from, but I usually am thinking 2-3 years in advance. Like where do I visualize myself like in 2 to 3 years? What does that look like? And then looking backwards, I can think of, or at least at the end of the year, and is this congruent with this, is this congruent with where I'm trying to go? Do you have usually modeling for a few years out?
Yeah, we've got 5-year visions, and a lot of times if that vision is on paper and clearly defined, a lot of times you're going to hit that vision in 2 to 3 years, and then you're going to have to extend the goalpost if that's important to you. But I think, again, very few people even have a vision or have a dream, and if they do, it's rarely on paper. And the ones that have the dream that it's on paper are the ones that are most likely to achieve it, and even achieve it sooner than 5 years.
And I keep a whiteboard with just like each of my different like entities, different interests in like what's going on with what's the big thing under each of them, and then it kind of holds me accountable too, and I can see it from my desk. And so then if I'm getting asked for some random meeting that not there's not value, then I can make the decision accordingly. You must have like a lot of constraints on your time. Like how do you handle that actually? I'm always interested to ask people that.
That is honestly the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And so I have a stop sign and a slow down sign in a orange cone inside my office. Sometimes it goes outside of my office because I want to have that open door policy. My office is complete glass. But at the same time, I have to put that stop sign out in order to make sure that I complete what I've committed to myself and the highest payoff activity for.
Yeah.
And I'll just share that not everybody should have open access to your time. And that's where, and again, trying to lead by example, where as sales professionals, we're saying you've got to manage the interruptions. You've got to do the highest payoff activities first before you allow the reactivity or the rest of your day to fill in. And that's something that most people really don't do.
I find that definitely I usually run with intense, pace Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And then Thursdays, I tend to like slow down and try to do something, good for myself and have a little bit more of a relaxed cadence. And same thing with Friday. And then I kind of, over the weekend, I'll spend a couple hours and visualize, what does the week look like? Is there anything I'm missing? And then kind of model it all out. But basically, I already have a plan going into the next week of these are my priorities for each day. And I mean, I think that's why I can accomplish so much. But I think when you grow, you have a lot of demands. Like everybody wants a little piece of your time. I'm noticing now my podcast has grown. A lot of people want to be on the podcast. Say like,
that is a beautiful thing.
Fit. You are super interested in mindset. You're super interested. Like it's a perfect like fit. But then there's a lot of people, and I don't even want to say what someone's like goal to talk about was. And I'm just like, okay, that is so nowhere here. So.
I mean, I think that as sales professionals and just any professional, we have the opportunity to structure our days and structure our weeks, for example. And so for a long time in my calendar at 1:00 on Friday, I said, if I've earned it, I'm off. And even a couple weeks ago, I went really, really hard Monday through Thursday. And then I got to spend time over at our beach condo with my mom. And then the morning was light on Friday. And then I took my mom to brunch. That was a perfect day. Like I had my mom brunch and I had a 2:00 appointment on a Friday. That was a perfect day for me. And then date night with my wife, for example. But, talking about you taking Thursday off and going back to 10X is easier than 2X, Dan Sullivan, the CEO of Strategic Coach, who co-authored the books, he had something called focus days, buffer days, and free days. And he talked about focus days when you're making it happen. Those are green activities. It could be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday and Thursday would be your buffer days to clean up the mess that you made. And then obviously Saturday, Sunday could be your off.
I'm like a bit of a Tasmanian devil as I go through things. And then I'm writing everything in my book and then I'm like, did I do that? Okay.
And most people just don't have enough structure.
Right.
And that's why it just takes longer.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you one new thing that's actually worked out really well. We have a new intern, and one of her things that she does once a week with me is she has like a 2.5 hour meeting with me, and she literally, we have a Teams call, and I share my screen, and I'm like, okay, these are all the things I'm knocking out. I basically clean up anything that I don't have. She gets to see me do all these things and what I've been doing. So basically, I'm just like, our intern's like babysitting me on Friday afternoons. But
that's your most important meeting of the week.
It is my most important meeting of the week now. I'm like, talk about bookending. We have a production meeting on Monday mornings to go through all of our deals. What do we need to do to move this thing forward? And what are people waiting on for us? What are we waiting from other people? And like, how do we keep things moving? But then at the end of the week, I've started doing that. And I'm like, no matter if this intern moves on, someone else in my organization is going to have to do this because this is like magical. Like it makes me after my lunch on Friday, just go, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Free.
Yeah. So it's whether I'm like looking at me doing searches or looking at me doing all the things, I don't know. It's worked well for me.
Yeah. I think when we don't have those meetings, there's less delegation. And then we feel like we're overwhelmed because we're taking it on and we're committing to too many things. But if we would have just had that meeting and then delegated it out, would have taken so much off of our plate.
I am getting very militant about delegating.
And I need to do a better job. And it's something I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm getting really militant.
Yeah.
I had someone who's been helping me with my podcast now for 3 years. She's been basically doing show notes and stuff, but then my team is still on the back end doing little things like getting the notes into YouTube or following up the guest that it's dropped, and I figured all that out. And I had a meeting with her, showed her how I did it, and recorded it. And we figured out it takes her maybe 11 minutes per episode to do those things, but it causes so much friction to stop and do those things. And now she's taken over all those things. And I'm like, oh, that's so nice. No, I'm going to be much more militant. Like because I figured out my highest and best use is listening to people's challenges that they're having in their businesses or hearing where they're wanting to go. And, I craft a solution to like get them there.
Yep.
That's my highest and best use. It's not necessarily going and doing the showings. It's not preparing all the papers all pretty and all the things. It's just putting my listening ears on and sitting and finding out like how I can be like of assistance. And all the other things I really have to delegate.
Yeah.
And then doing this podcast protects my mindset. Like it.
Well, I was gonna ask you how that started, how it's evolved, and what does it look like moving forward?
Well, you spoke a little bit about how you had a business and your business model didn't like work. Mm-hmm. I went through that. Like I had a nice boutique brokerage, and then when I had kids, I tried to like expand it and. I didn't have the right construct. I don't think I was the best leader that I could have been. I don't think I was trained well enough to do that. I basically went from I'm a solopreneur to being a leader of all these agents without any structure, kind of like what you're talking about. But I had 2 babies. So I just I had a mental breakdown and I didn't want to do anything anymore. And I've always been like a very strong, resilient person. Like I've worked full time, gone to school full time since I was like 13. I've always been very strong, but like that broke me. Yep. And so I was around some friends and I just realized, I was like, wait a second. Like a lot of people that are super successful go through like this point, and someone talked about it on the other day, like a fracture in their life where something just fractures and then you look forward and you look at the fork in the road, like what direction can you take? And I was like, I am going to get myself like out of this. And so to hold myself accountable, I decided to have a podcast about mindset. And what a way to do that. And after that, the Orlando Business Journal booked me to be a keynote speaker, which went really well in front of like hundreds of people, all about like mindset. And then after that, I was like, oh, I'll write the book. And then again, the podcast has continued to grow. I've gotten to have the former performance coach for like Eli Manning, the year that he did the Super Bowl, top investment sales broker in New York, and all kinds of really super cool people. Yeah. But I haven't met anyone who hasn't been through something super disruptive and jarring and caused them to kind of rethink things. And Naval Ramvavac, I can't remember, but he has an almanac.
Okay.
Really cool thought leader, but he talks about like we almost are versions of ourselves. If you stay stuck at Windows 95, it's going to lead to disruption in your life. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to grow. I needed to kind of level up. So I did that through having the podcast, and now through the podcast is continuing to have me grow.
Got it. I love it.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
Is that crazy?
Well, and I think Ed Milet's the one who said you're most equipped to help the person you used to be. And so that's where, as we continue to grow, we're able to help more and more people. Yes,
I would agree with that. I have now had the opportunity to help a lot of other people, and I hope to like continue to do that and realize you don't have to be perfect. You can be your authentic self, and not everybody's going to like your authentic self, but at least be your authentic self, because then you're happy, and then keep pushing. But I mean, it's not easy, especially being an entrepreneur and you have your own company, and it's not easy.
Well, and I know you golf, and I know you played tennis, and but I heard something. This is probably going on 7 or 8 years ago that really changed me, because you mentioned a Tasmanian devil. I'm pretty intense too.
I'm very intense.
I used to be way more intense, but he basically said, if you try and hit the swing for the fences on your tee shot, what happens? You slice it or you hook it. I duck hook it left when I try and swing for the fences, or you throw the hardest punch, or you try and throw the fastest pitch. Well, if you can operate with 80% intensity, but you're consistent 95% of the time, you're going to get better results. You're going to be more fulfilled. And so that was something that really made a difference in my professional life 7 or 8 years ago.
Golf has definitely throttled me down. And the more I do it, the better it is for me. And it makes me, I literally turn my phone off. Yeah. Like, I don't want to have any bloop, 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 bloop. And I figure if Elon Musk can sit on the Joe Rogan podcast and turn his phone off for 3.5 hours, how come I can't turn my phone off for 3.5 hours on the golf course?
Yeah. I'm going with a bunch of the staff to Top Golf here in a little bit, so should have a little bit of fun and then play golf on Sunday.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Which course are you doing on Sunday?
We're doing LPGA, the Jones course.
Oh.
So buddies of mine, clients of mine are members out there, and they invited me to play on Sunday morning.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Have you played there before?
Oh, yeah, lots.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's up in Daytona, right?
It is.
I actually, now that I've moved up to Lake Mary, and those listening to this podcast don't know where Lake Mary is, it's super cool. It's a great area, north of Orlando. A lot more woodsy and nature and stuff. I'm actually going to fly out to Atlanta to go quail hunting with some friends out at Daytona.
Okay.
Because it's 35 minutes to go to Daytona Beach to the airport. Have you flown out of Daytona yet?
I have not, no.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
Because I'm like...
I haven't flown out of Melbourne either.
I think Melbourne's too far from here.
It is.
It's too far. But Orlando's just such a... It's horrific to deal with right now, the airport. I love Orlando. It's going to be fixed, guys. Anyone thinking of investing or coming to Orlando. You must
have clear and TSA pre-check, just saying.
Yes, you must. You must, because it's like... And if you check bags, just know their conveyors break a lot. I spent more time in the airport waiting for my baggage when I came back from out of the country. I went to Quebec than I did necessarily on my trip. But that's okay. We had fun.
Yes.
It was great.
Yes, you did.
So where do you go from here? What do you, other than are you going to keep doing, you're still doing the masterminds? Do you have any other speaking or things coming up this year?
Speaking on a virtual mastermind, and then I think there will be more speaking engagements. The virtual mastermind is on March 5th. That's to mortgage industry professionals, for example. Spoke twice in the month of January. And so, I think there's going to be more. And I just think that there's a lack of sales leadership out there right now, and I want to find those loan officers who aren't getting that also want to level up, and I can pull them to the level they need to be. I think there's a ton of opportunity right now. I think that there is going to be a market share gap, though. I think that the better producing realtors and lenders on the residential side are going to get more of that market share.
Oh, I agree. So on Facebook, I constantly see these people in the real estate masterminds and the market's so bad, or this is terrible. And it's if that's what you believe, it's like playing golf. It's you believe that your ball is going to go in that lake and things are terrible, your ball is going in that lake. Yeah. And if you think things are going to be terrible, and so that's where someone like you to help shift the mindset and start moving you in the right direction is so important. Yeah. And protecting your energy.
Yes.
Are you big on energy?
I am. And surrounding yourself with the right people, but then again, it's getting the proper sleep, exercising, eating well, not drinking as much wine during the week.
Oh, you're going to Top Golf tonight.
There might be a beverage or two.
I would do the wine instead of the beverages. Yeah. I don't know what it is with those beverages or if it's me, but I don't think they put a full serving of alcohol in their mixed drink.
True story.
You think
I would just say I would probably do beer there. Wine is at home, but or out. So
but I'm seriously, they just it's like water, but so anyway.
They're charging like they do though.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do. But it's fun to go to Top Golf. It's really a blast. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how do people get a hold of you?
They can call me direct on my personal cell phone, which is 407-383-8884, or you can follow me on IG at Jason R. Purcell, and that's Purcell.
Okay. And your business is Certified Mortgage Planners?
That is correct.
And what's that website?
It's www.cmpfl.com.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to chat about that we didn't chat about?
I mean, I think the mindset, I think performance, I think that's something that you constantly work at. You're never there. And so it's the consistent improvement over time, and that's what's going to add to the big wins.
Well, if I was to kind of think about our whole conversation and kind of land the plane, though, it seems to me that people should have an accountability partner if they don't already have an accountability partner, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, or whatever that big goal is that they're trying to work towards, or the habit they're trying to change, or otherwise, if they don't have that, they should get that. Otherwise, they're on an island by themselves.
Yeah. Coaching has honestly changed my life, both at a very young age. It's made me who I am today. It's made me, like you said, resilient, determined, disciplined, to be able to fight through tough circumstances and overcome adversity, and we all have to do that.
Awesome. Well,
this
has been
fun. Forward.
All right, let's knock it out of the park this year.
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right. Thanks so much to everybody tuning into the Performance Mindset podcast today. This is your host, Amy Calandrino, signing off.